Welcome to Empowered Living. I'm Ann Shu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Empowered Living, the podcast where we explore the habits and conversations that help us build more intentional, resilient lives. I'm your host, Ann Shu, and today we're talking about what it takes to embody resilience, faith, and the courage to reinvent yourself. I'm joined by Wayne Gono, Chief Networking Officer at Regal Plastic Supply Company. Wayne is a man who never set out to be a leader, yet found himself leading a company, a family, and a life full of purpose. In this conversation, Wayne and I talk about navigating a painful family split, being thrust into running a business overnight, and later stepping aside so his kids could take the reins. And we also talk about what it takes to say yes to reinvention, even when it's hard. Whether you're leading a business, guiding your family, or simply seeking clarity on your next season, this episode is packed with wisdom and encouragement for your journey. Let's dive in. Wayne, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
I'm excited to chat with you as well. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, let's just dive in. So I know that you have reinvented yourself twice.
Yes.
Can you share with us what kicked off that reinvention? How did you know that it was coming? How did you know it was happening? And then what did you do to really make sure that you landed in the right spot on the other side?
Well, the first time was in 1996, and that kind of, it came out of the blue. It was a shock. Patsy and I have worked together for 45 years. And in 96, I was selling our products for our family business out of our house. She was part-time in accounting for the company, for the family business. Through counseling and everything, we just had a horrible family split over the company. And it was ugly. I'll spare you a bunch of the details. But in one day, her dad looked at us and he said, "You're the president, Wayne. You're the CFO, Patsy." We weren't ready for that. We did not see that coming, that there was going to be a split in the family. And he's looking at us and he said, "You're running this business now?" We'd never run a business. So we quickly had to reinvent ourselves because I wasn't even going to the office, and she had children. She just went into the office 2 days a week. So we had to readjust everything in our life to be at the office 5 and 6 days a week and trying to figure out how to run a business. So we did not know. So the reinvention came with us circling our wagons, gathering all of our friends that were really, really smart and wise in business to teach us, how do we do this? Because we literally did not know what we were doing. And we were fearful. I don't like throwing people under the bus. But anyway, it got very difficult because we lost 40% of our market share because of what happened with the family. And we were just trying, we treaded water for probably 6 years before the stuff got turned around. But we just had to literally roll our sleeves up and become a president and a CFO when we weren't. Sales guy, part-time accounting, family business.
What do you credit to being able to move from treading water to really thriving in that environment?
Can I throw my faith out there? Because that was the biggest thing. This caused us to spend more time on our knees in front of our Lord to get things right because we were scared. I mean, we've never experienced anything like that, and hopefully never have to experience anything again like that. But really, the faith was first. The second was, again, as I said, getting our friends that came along, the number of friendships that we had that came along our side to help us out with finance, with inventory, with banking relationships, with insurance, all this stuff that we had no idea that we knew we needed it, but we never had to go out after it. We know, we have a CPA. Well, it's dad's CPA. It wasn't our CPA. So that was another part of reinventing. We finally had to tell dad, we can't use all your old guys anymore. We need our own team. And fortunately, because he was the founder, and founders typically don't get out of your way.
Yeah.
Stay in the middle of it. But it took about 2 years before dad finally realized, if you're going to run this, you need to run it. And I need to step aside and just get out of your way. So he let us start building our team.
How did he have that insight? Because I feel like it's so hard for founders to get out of the way sometimes.
I think part of it was a come to Jesus meeting. We had to sit down with him and said, this isn't working for us because Patsy had about had it. Every time she'd call the bank, Gerald, dad's banker, would always say, okay, I get what you're wanting to do, but let me talk to your dad first. Well, that just slows everything up because her dad was pretty much gone because he was leaving it to us. Well, then the banker had to get a hold of him and then they had to get back to us. And Patsy had just had enough. She said, we can't run a business like this. And same with the insurance people. Same with every phase of business that you had. You needed your own people. Well, we had to go get them because we were tired of working with his people. Not that there wasn't anything wrong with them. It's just that we had the responsibility with no authority. So he finally looked at it and said, okay, he didn't say it, but he did. He stepped aside and so it got easier after that because we were building our own team. And then I'm not kidding. We probably had a dozen men and women that came beside us to help us out in every area of a business that could possibly, otherwise we would have never have made it.
That's incredible. So you're one of the most caring, passionate, genuine, authentic leaders that I know. Do you feel like this reinvention brought that out in you, or do you feel like you were born this way and you were always like you always were this type of a leader?
It's funny you'd say that because I really never thought of myself as a leader ever. But as I aged, I realized, okay, I feel like I'm that good of a leader. So why do I always get put in leadership roles? Because any leadership role I've ever been in, and it's been a lot, I never pursued it.
Yeah.
I just got reined in and quite frankly, I think I was just born with it. I think Patsy would probably agree because, we're high school sweethearts. So we started dating when I was 16, she was 15. So she knows me better than anybody knows me. So she would probably tell you, yeah, he's always been like that, but it took a long time for me to finally realize, you know what? I guess I am a leader. A friend of mine asked me, he says, you always say you don't feel like you're a leader. Let me ask you one question. Have you got anybody following? Wow. Okay. I do, whether it be at church, whether it be in the company, whether it be in this ministry. Yeah. I thought, oh, maybe I'm a leader and I just didn't realize it. So then the leadership roles. And once I realized that and was willing to do more and more and more, my stage got way bigger. I was shocked how much bigger it got in leadership roles. And every one of them, I never thought I deserved or was qualified to be there.
This mindset that you have of like not realizing that you're a leader, a lot of our clients at Empower Journey have that same situation where they don't realize, they don't connect the dots and realize that they are the leaders of their families, right? Like
Yeah,
when we
right.
talk about being a family leader, that idea, that concept is almost foreign to people. And we talk about like you have to be the leadership team for your family. And that they understand leadership team and the concept of running a business, but serving as the leaders for your family and putting on that hat and actually wearing that title and stepping into that role is often foreign for a lot of our clients.
Yeah, I don't know. I won't say it was foreign to me. I just never thought of it that way. I was just dad. I was dad and husband. And I had my responsibilities as a dad, and as a husband, as a father. But I never thought of myself, well, I'm the leader of the company. I never thought of myself like that. We just, everybody's got dysfunctional families. I had a dysfunctional family. Patsy had a dysfunctional. So we knew things that weren't going to work. We tried to do things. I can't say we deliberately did things. We just did things that we thought was the right thing to do as we raised our kids. We didn't have this plan that we drew up. Well, we need to do this. We need to do that because we want our kids to be this. And never did that. We just did things that we weren't going to buy our kids brand new cars when they were 16 years old. We just do. Now, a lot of their friends were getting brand new cars when they're 16 years old.
Yeah.
But we just say, that's just not right. So we just did a lot of things. What we thought as parenting was common sense. Never did we think, well, I'm the leader of the family. I didn't. I don't know why.
Talk to me about the rhythms and the routines and the traditions that you guys had with your kids when they were younger, because I know that you've got incredible relationships now with your adult kids. And I really feel like that is the mark of an incredible parent. Like your adult kids still want to hang out with you. They still want to go on vacation with you. So what are some of the things that you guys did when they were younger that really laid that foundation for such a strong relationship now?
I think the biggest thing, one was our church. Two was the school, the private school we put the children in. We were Trinity Christian Academy in Addison is the school that we had our children in. And that community was everything to us, to the point to where we're still good friends. I mean, my son's been out of school 21 years now out of high school, 21 years. And Amy's 4 years behind, so 16, 17 years. And we're still friends with a lot of those people, as are they, because that the community of the church and the community of Trinity Christian Academy was huge. That was probably the biggest thing, because the influence, what the spiritual influence, and I'll say even leadership influence without even knowing it, it was everywhere they turned. They could not escape that community and family feel that TCA gave you and that the church gave you, to the point to where I know when Chad, I did this with both of the kids. When Chad went away to college, I came up with a list of men that I said, I want you to write a letter to Chad. He's getting ready to leave. You've known him for a long, long time. One of the guys in there had known him since he was born. I want you to write a letter to Chad, and then we're going to have a gathering at the house, and I want you to read that letter to him. So there were teachers. Most of them were from Trinity. Only one guy was outside of that circle. Well, one guy was a pastor of our church, but they had heavily influenced our children. So I think I had at least 10 men that came in and just read that letter, and most of them reading it wept. That was a really cool moment as he goes off, because they challenged him when he went off to college, things he should do and shouldn't do, that kind of thing. But that community was just gigantic. The church and the school was astronomical, where it just led us as parents and our children. I mean, we vacationed with all these people as well.
I know and still to this day, you're going on vacations with your adult kid.
Yeah, it's fun. It really is. And that's just I call it the community of Trinity Christian Academy in our church was like Mayberry RFD. You just know everybody.
Yeah.
It's weird that you would. I mean, the school's fairly large, but you just know so many people. And now our grandchildren are going there. We prepared for that. And so when we go to Grandparents' Day, we go in there, we see all these names laying out for name tag. Crap, we know 3/4 of the people that are here, because it's all legacy. So I don't know. It's wonderful.
So other than the community, what else do you think that you and Patsy did that was special or unique that really laid this strong foundation to have such incredible relationships with your children?
Well, I know the one thing Chad, I've heard him tell these stories. He doesn't tell them to me, but our children had to work.
Mm.
Even when they were in high school, they were going to have a job. They weren't, because that's what we had to do, and we're going to let them off really easy. They didn't have a whole lot of chores, because my son was a big AAU basketball player, so he was gone a lot. But one of the things he says, you know what, my dad and I, every week, all 3/4 of the year, we would mow yards together. He would come home from school. We would load the lawn equipment up in the back of one of our vans. And we had just had neighbors around the neighborhood that we would mow yards. And he said, you know what, that just taught me a lot. This is him saying this. It just taught me a lot that my dad went with me and we mowed yards, and he got the money for the yards that we mowed. But that was a great time for us. And Amy got a job in high school at some restaurants around here. We wanted them to get the value of working. And I don't think we did that intentionally, other than we just thought they need to work. They're not just going to have a free ride here, and we just support them off until they get out of college, and then they go get a job. I know we didn't want that, but it wasn't written in a plan book that we were going, at this age, you're going to do this. At that age, we didn't have that. We just did things we thought. Does that make sense?
And now Chad is working in the family business and he's taken over from you, right?
Chad and Amy, they're not just working in it, they own it.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't own it financially, but they own it in their own make, just what they do and how much they dig into it and they care about it, which is very rare in family owned business to get into the third generation. But they're committed, they're hard workers. It seems like they're the first one there, last one to leave. Not all the time, but most of the time. And they just dig in, and they know how to. They're not only leaders themselves, they know how to pick leaders and know how to develop them. And that we didn't teach them that.
Yeah.
We didn't say, okay, we're going to have to teach you about how to be a leader and how to develop leaders. They learned it from a bunch of different avenues of friends of ours that instilled in them as well.
And was the plan always for Chad to take over? Because I know so many entrepreneurs want their kids to take over the family business, but it doesn't always play out as beautifully as you guys in your family. So was that always the plan, or, did he try something and then come back?
It was never the plan. Our children are going back to the family split. They were in high school and junior high.
Yeah.
They lived through that. So I've never asked them if that's why they weren't interested, but we had 2 rules with them once they graduated from high school. We said, okay, we want you to do 2 things once you graduate. Go to, at least try college. You don't have to graduate from college, but we want you to try it. And once you've tried it, whether you graduated or not, the second thing you've got to do, you go chase your passion. And you've got to do that for at least 3 years. We don't care what that passion is, but you go do that, whatever it is. And then if you think you want to come to work with us, then come talk to us. But there isn't going to be a spot for you as soon as you graduate from high school, or if you graduate from college. There's no spot here. You need to go learn your own thing. And they both did it. My son did a startup right out of college with the 3 other fraternity brothers that he'd been at Trinity with since first grade. Very, very close friends, but they did the startup right out of college. Now, your boys aren't old enough yet, but boys don't tell you anything as they grow up. They hardly tell you anything as a man. Now, your daughters tell you everything, but boys, they're just kind of, so we had no idea that he was developing this business plan with these 3 brothers while they were at A&M. We didn't know that. We put him on a plane and flew him to Colorado Springs right after he graduated. I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, we're opening our second store. Okay. Your second store? What? So he explained it to us. I said, all right, that's very, very interesting. So he did that for 7 years. They grew it to roughly 30 million in 7 years.
Incredible.
About that. I think they might have had a dozen locations around the country. A very smart business. We invested in it because I thought, wow, I think that taught him how to be a niche entrepreneur. Find a need and fill it. This business was a need and they filled it and they killed it. So my daughter always wanted to be a school teacher, and she taught school for 4 years. Now this is the cool part for Patsy and I. This is when we wept. Chad he'd been doing this business for 6 to 7 years. He was living in Oklahoma City where they were opening up a couple stores. He calls us up one day after he was married at that point, as was Amy. He calls us up and he says, I need to meet with you and Mom. Well, Chad never says, I need to meet with you and Mom. There's something wasn't cool here, because really, you want to come to town, you want to hang, you want to chill, you want to do burgers, you want something like that, but never, I need to meet with you and Mom. So when he was in Oklahoma City, we met halfway, and he says, you know what, I'm tired of retail. I want to move back home. Have you gotten anything in the family business that I can do? And like, well, yeah, raise my hand. My job? Yeah, you can do that. I know what I was getting with him, because we followed the company and what he did. I went to locations when he opened up. So I knew what kind of leader he was. So I said, wow, okay. So we get in the car and we're like, okay, this is a dream we never dreamt and a prayer we never prayed. We had no exit strategy at that point.
Yeah.
Then that was one part of an exit strategy. Right about 70 days later, Amy comes to the house. She was teaching school at Richardson. And we didn't know. She comes over. She says her husband, Stephen, had taken a job with a Deloitte in Houston. We were going to move to Houston. He's going to get his MBA at the University of. So I'm going to move down there. I don't want to teach there. Do you have anything I can do in the office there? You don't think we wept big time that? Because we were like, okay, here. I mean, 3 months ago, we had no exit strategy. And all of a sudden, God just drops these 2 in our lap, both highly qualified to do our jobs. Because I didn't know how Amy would transfer the leadership as a teacher of second graders to a business leader. So we got her a coach, she's done amazingly well. She's smart like her mother with finance. And this was not a plan. At that time, we were in our mid 60s, and we were trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this company? The kids aren't interested in it. They're both off doing their thing, and they seem to be enjoying doing what they were doing. I'm not kidding. We had no idea. And we left there just thinking, whoa, now what? So then we didn't have a written plan, but we just did what we thought was right. They would sit to get in the seats, and they would go through, training, if you will, because Chad knew what he wanted to do. He did everything in the company. He went and drove a truck. He worked in our fabrication department. He worked with the salespeople. He traveled to each one of our locations. At that time, there was 4 of them. So he got to know the people, trying to understand our market, what we did, how we did, and just all that stuff. And then Amy she came alongside Patsy and worked in Houston for a long time in finance, but it came to the point to where she really needed to move to Dallas for her job. So they moved up here, and then they both here. And I was saved in about 2015 or 16. We handed in the reins. They were both more than qualified, and we knew that right away we needed to get out of their way. So we shifted, and In May of 2020, Amy calls me up and she says, Dad, you're really not going to like what I'm getting ready to ask you to do. But by the end of the month, you need to be out of your office because we need the space. Okay. And so at that point, I had no day-to-day responsibilities, but I had an office. I had somewhere to go. Oh, and now all of a sudden, by the end of this month, I'm cleaning my office out and I'm like, okay, so now my office is here. And that was reinvention number 2 because I had nowhere to go and nothing to do. That was way harder than the first reinvention because that was forced. This one really wasn't forced. I knew that reinvention, it got reinvented for me. I had to run this company. This one, I had to seek. I had to get back on my knees and say, all right, Lord, now what? I have no job. The kids are going to kill it. Now what do I do?
So what was that reinvention, the second one, like for you? What did it look like before, and what does it look like now?
Well, it was at first it was very hard to be the guy in our company, and at that point I was beginning to get really involved in our trade association. I was climbing that ladder, which I went all the way up to president of our trade association. It wasn't a small trade association. I think there's 1,500 member companies that were in it. So to become president of that was a big deal. But then when I started to reinvent myself, I didn't know what I was going to do at that point because I'd been the guy, and all of a sudden I'm like nobody. I don't, especially after about a year, you go to the office and you don't know anybody at the office. Plus, they grew the business by 4 times, so you have remote locations. And we went to a Christmas party. I forget what year it was, but we go to check in at the Christmas party at the Jerry Jones's stadium. That's where the Christmas party was. There was a couple hundred people there. We go to check in, and the people checking us in, they didn't know.
Didn't know who you were?
Now, other than the last name, they had no idea. I mean, I go sit down at the table. I'm like, I don't think I like this. Very few people, because most of the baby boomers didn't like the culture shift that was going on in the company. So they chose to go be successful elsewhere, which I got that. I didn't struggle with that, but it really hurt me when I realized I used to know everybody. And even their spouses, their kids, because I would travel around all the locations, and that one hurt. And then I started thinking, well, I'm gonna start going to all the branches. And I thought I did that once. I said, this is stupid. There's no point in me trying to dig into all these people. That's Chad's job. Back off, Wayne. You just get out of that. Yeah, it was tough because at that point, I had no purpose. It had been, I won't say taken from me, but it didn't exist. I didn't have a job, my job wasn't ever my identity. It's just what we did for a living. And Patsy and I had done it for so long, it just became normal. But I struggled with that here and here for several months. Just no purpose. What do I do? Feeling sorry for myself that, just went through all that, those emotions. I didn't like it. So I finally just started asking the Lord. I said, all right, yeah, you're going to have to lead me because I don't know what I'm going to do. And one by one, he brought things into my life that I would very quickly become passionate about. And quite frankly, it got to where there was too many of them, where Patsy read, she says, Wayne, you need to cut these things in half. Because I'll bet you're not doing any of them very well. Because I was over committing myself. So there's three that I stayed with, and all business stuff is entrepreneur stuff. I don't know. Have you ever met Robert Hunt? Is that name?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because we met through Biz Owners Ed, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So God brought me Robert and Kathy Hunt. It's a peer-to-peer Renaissance executive forums. He brought me that to go to work with this guy. He and his wife, I think they thought I was weird because Robert and I had hung out for a couple of years, had lunch maybe once a quarter. His wife would come occasionally, and I liked what he was doing. And more than that, I liked why he was doing it. So as I was praying, the Lord kept putting on my heart, go talk to Robert and Kathy Hunt. I couldn't. What am I going to do with them? I don't know anything about that business. And I just got this sense, trust me, just go talk to them. So had lunch with him. I said, all right, this is going to sound really weird, guys, but I want to come to work for you, but I don't want a paycheck. I don't want to be a business partner. I just want to help you and your company, help you grow it. Because he told me he had wanted to sell it in 8 years. And I said, well, I can help you do that. So I poured in then for like 4 years. And then Biz Owners Ed came along, and then that happened. And then another ministry I've been on the board, Time to Revive, that came along. And that gave me just a whirlwind of purpose quicker than I thought it was going to. And then 2 or 3 others, but they finally had to ask the Lord, you got to remove some of these. So, because I couldn't quit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to quit our trade association.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, come on, as a past president, I was committed to this. I was committed to the industry, and that got taken away from me. But the Lord just removed it, and interesting, I didn't mind because then it allowed me to focus on stuff I was more passionate about.
So, as you're seeing this next generation of entrepreneurs step up and take lead, what do you see as common traits of the most successful ones?
Well, one, they're a lot smarter than I've ever been. That's common. You know what? I don't know if this is what made them successful, but I sit down with I've done 5 classes now. So I meet with every class member prior to the class starting. And now this is going to sound bizarre, but the one common thread every one of them had, they've lived everywhere and they've traveled everywhere.
Mm.
Every one of them. Baby boomers, what'd we do when we graduated? Well, we graduated from high school, we graduated from college, and then we got married and started having babies. I don't have any friends that did what this generation, or from millennials down, did. So they got this experience, just worldwide experience from travel. And I don't know that helped them out in their entrepreneur endeavor, but it had to play something because every one of them did it, not a single one. And that just really blew me away. But they're eager. They want to learn. They're fearless for the most part. They're ready to dive into anything and everything. Like I spent 45 minutes on the phone with one entrepreneur today that was looking at doing the Biz Owners Ed class. And I haven't had one do this to me before. He sat down. He asked me questions about the whole foundation for 45 minutes. I'm like, this guy's intense. Most everybody just shows up to the class because, wow, this sounds like a great opportunity. But he was drilling me. I'm like, wow. I mean, I just thanked him because he was asking me questions I didn't know if I'd know the answers to, and I was shocked I did. Like, wow, I know the answer to everything you've asked. So they're very inquisitive. They're just sharp. Not every one of them's educated, which be in business you don't have to be, but they've got passion for what they're doing. They don't mind chasing it. They don't mind hard work. They're just inquisitive. I don't know. And they're fun. Your generation, I forget how old you are. Maybe I don't even know, but your generation and younger just is so, well, Chad's 42. So from his age, being a millennial down to Gen Zs they're just so interesting and so cool. Every one of them. Well, just like when I met with you and Sonny. I had that lunch. Those are some of the neatest, coolest people I think I've ever met.
That's so sweet.
You are. It's just both of you. And have a fascinating story.
So on the flip side, so you've shared what these young entrepreneurs are doing well. On the flip side, what are some of the most common, biggest mistakes that you see them make? Like when you watch them and you're like, man, if they just knew this, it would really jumpstart their business.
Grow too fast.
You
get upside down with debt. We had my favorite story, no companies and no names mentioned, but she was really struggling financially. This shows you how smart these people are, these young people. She was really struggling financially with their company. So she met with David Hammer, which is the founder of one of the founders of Biz Owners Ed, met with him and one other person because she was in the class, and both of those mentors told her, "You're so far upside down. You need to file bankruptcy and get out of this." That was their advice. The young lady did that the next week, and now I've never seen her happier. She took their advice and she acted on it that quickly because who she was talking to, she really respected from their business knowledge. And they just said, "You're not going to dig out of this," because she was so upside down. And I was so impressed and quite frankly shocked that she chose to drop everything and move on with her life. And now she's so happy. She got a job somewhere else, not, working for somebody, but I've seen her 2 or 3 times since she did that. I've just never seen her happier because she wasn't depressed, but you could just tell she was carrying a load. So I think they're quick acting, that they seem to be. At least that she was very impressive, I thought.
What else? What other mistakes do you see?
Gosh, I was looking at the list of class members that we've had. We're 12-year-old. So we graduated 144 class members. We've had roughly 20 exit their company very successfully. I don't, the ones I participate with through biz, I don't find them making that many mistakes. Well, that I would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they may be having mistakes, but I don't know they are, because as a community, we try to stay, as the mentors and the leaders of Biz Owners Ed, we try to stay connected with all of them. But when there's 144 of them now, it's a little bit more difficult to do. but I'll try to keep up with the classes that I have known very well. But I don't see them making that many mistakes that I see. Yeah, but I'm not privy to all of them. I mean, they all seem to be doing very, very well in the endeavors that they've chosen. Because I go on site, see their companies, and quite frankly, I'm impressed. So I know they're making mistakes. I just don't see them. I see the successful part of it, which is fun for me.
That's incredible. So, in this phase of life for you, we're not calling it retirement. I know you've got a
Fall season. This
in
is a
this season of life, how
Yeah.
do you define your purpose?
First and foremost is to serve my Lord. First and foremost, that's my biggest first passion. I carry around. I've got books I give. I think I gave you all this one. Didn't I give you this?
Yes, you
I
did.
said that says it all. What love does.
Yep.
So I bring my faith everywhere I go. Well, that first, and really, I mean, most everybody I say give back because it's what we should do. So that's my biggest that's my biggest purpose. Just give back, and it doesn't have to be huge ways. I mean, you can write a check. I think a lot of people do that, but I'm a firm believer is yes, we're called to tithe. And 10%'s the beginning. But most people think when you tithe, it's all about money. No, you've got tithing of your resources, and you've got tithing of your talents and your gifts. Give it all away as much as you can. So I would say giving back is probably my biggest purpose. And I try to find every avenue that we can. And I mean, I could tell you stories after stories of just little things that we've done that I'll tell you one that I just did. And I'm not doing this to pat myself on the back, but it's just a little bitty thing that you can do for somebody. I was at a conference one Saturday. I'm sitting down in the front row, and the speaker up there, he's gone on this really pair of old boots, cowboy boots. They're worn out. And when we got through, I went over and talked to him. I said, I bet those are your favorite cowboy boots, aren't they? He said, well, as a matter of fact, they are. I said, now this guy, I'm going to assume doesn't have a lot of money. I don't know. I said, take them off. I'm going to take them to my cobbler, and I'm going to go get you a brand new pair of boots made out of your favorite boots. So I did that yesterday. I just took the cowboy boots. It's just a little thing, but you'd have thought I'd bought him a car. And I just quit and took his cowboy boots to a cobbler that I've done business with forever. So it's a little bitty thing that you can do to touch a heart. Bringing joy everywhere is just another purpose of mine. I just think Christians are not, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is circumstances outside of you. Joy comes from here. Yeah. And I'd rather just deliver as much joy everywhere I go. It drives my nuts. It drives my wife crazy, but because some people think his guy's not real. There's no way this guy can be like that all the time.
I've spent enough time with you. I know it's real.
Yeah. So that would be probably the two or three things that I'm very passionate about. I'm purposeful about that. I'm very intentional. That making friends, just as many as I can.
And what's on the horizon for you? What do you hope to accomplish these next 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, we want to, I've gotten involved with the ministry called Christians Engaged. I don't think I've talked to you about that.
I haven't.
Well, we need to have lunch, and let me tell you about this. You would love Bunny Pounds. Just Google BUNNI Pounds. She wrote, there's another book I give away. It's called Jesus and Politics.
That's a big book.
One Woman's Walk with God in a Mudslinging Profession. Well, that just gave you that. There's two of them. But this young lady is amazing. So we have, this is another purpose that God brought into both of our lives. Because for the longest time, I've wanted a ministry that Patsy and I could serve in together, because we're good together. And, I've always served in our church, done things. She's always served in her church. And so we've done things separately. But I've been praying. I bet I prayed for 14 or 15 years that God would bring something in our life that we could do together. And when I met Bunny and Patsy fell in love with her, it's a nonpartisan ministry that goes to the church in America, Little C Catholic Church across the United States, asking them to do three things. We want you to vote, pray, and be engaged in politics. Vote in every election, be engaged in politics at every level you can, and vote. And it is just blown up in the last. She's only a 4-year-old ministry, but in Capitol Hill, she is very, very well known. Yeah. So that one, that's another. So I've got that, and then I've got, we're trying to enhance biz owners ed to get it to more people because we'd like to have it in a bigger arena other than Grapevine Convention Center. So we're really digging in. The board's really digging into why isn't this any bigger than it is? I mean, it's big, but we want it to because we just want to get to the entrepreneur world because that's what drives our economy. So those are the two biggest things that Patsy and I are both digging in on. So I'm just going to keep doing that until God says otherwise. That and traveling, which is that's fun. We like learning. And I've learned that traveling makes you much more interesting because you just learn parts of the world that I would never know otherwise.
And tell me what you're doing to take care of yourself so that you can continue pouring into others.
Gosh, physically, Patsy and I, we walk 2 miles every morning. We try our best to eat right, like especially before because this is over a 3-week trip, so we're trying to get our weight down because we know we're going to gain while we're gone. So we're very disciplined with our health, the way we eat, the exercise. You do that every morning because we don't. My day, I never take an appointment before noon anymore because the mornings belong to Patsy and I. Whether it's exercise, it's quiet time, whatever it is, that's ours for this season of our life. And I want it to be like that from now on. That we're just here together till she walks out the door, and typically it's around 11 o'clock, and then she's headed home from the office at around 4:30, or she's home by 4:30 mostly, but she still goes in the office.
And what have you guys done to keep your relationship and your marriage so healthy and strong?
Well, faith's the biggest thing. I've got to keep throwing that out there because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't. I mean, she puts up with a lot more with me than I put up with her. Both we're active socially. She always tells me, "Well, we wouldn't be active this socially if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for you, I'd be staying home reading a book all the time, and I'd never do anything." So the biggest thing is we recognize each other's gifts and talents, and we're respectful of them. Patsy and I are completely opposite in every way you can possibly think. I mean, I'm not kidding you. We are freakily opposite of one another, even to the point where she loads the dishwasher opposite of the way I load it. I tell you, you put everything on the wrong shelf, and then I mean, literally, we're nothing alike except for the big things: our passion for our Lord, our church worship. So the big things we're exactly on the same page, but all the little bitty things we're not. It's just so different. I just think I've told you this before. It took 20 years into my marriage before I learned to just say yes, dear. Totally that, and husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church and was willing to give himself up for her. Once I learned to say yes, dear, and learned the fact of how special she is as a gift to me, and it just changed everything. I love serving her, and I've got the ability and the time to be able to do that because trust me, she deserves it putting up with me. I'm not easy to put up with. I know that.
So you say you love serving her and now you have the time and ability to do that. What would you tell the listener that wants to serve their spouse, but maybe they're just at max capacity right now? They don't feel like they have the time or the space to serve the way that they would like to.
Wow, that's well, being intentional about it is the biggest thing, but the time that's a big issue today, especially with you guys. I mean, come on, you're married, you're running a company, you got 4 kids. That time to do that is very, very difficult. I'm a firm believer. People say, well, marriage is 50-50. No, it's not. Marriage is 100%, 100%. Because there's some days I've only got 60%. Patsy will pick up the other 40 for me. And there's days it's the same way with her. We can't, she knows when I'm not doing great. I know when she's not doing great. And we fill that void in each other. And again, this wasn't a plan. It just seemed like that's just what you need to do. But it's easier in this season of life than it is in your season of life. I mean, it's just hard. It would be hard for me to do what I'm doing today back when we had children. We just had 2. It just, we were sacrificing it to keep our kids in Trinity. It was tough time. So I don't know what I tell people except try to be intentional about it. Have a date night. Patsy and I still have date nights. We always have. I think a lot of younger couples kind of, after they've been married maybe 6 or 7, 10 years, they forget about dating
Hmm?
and go back to that. Yeah, I mean, how special was the times when we were dating compared to the times when we were, deep into marriage with 4 kids and a business to run. That's it's tough to make up, but I'd say intentionality is the biggest thing. Intentionality and purpose. Make sure you do something, and then you talk about that. What can we do to enhance one another in our marriage as we walk this out? until it gets to this season where it's a lot easier. It just is. When you don't have that big responsibility with a company, it's a game changer. That and becoming empty nesters. It just shifts everything.
So your advice is sell the business and kick your kids out of the house.
No, no, absolutely not. No, because because at one point we were talking about selling the company when we didn't have the children. But Patsy said, okay, well, if we're going to sell the company, that's like getting rid of the golden goose that lays the eggs. How are we going to do that? And what really worried me, she said, well, this before the kids were in the business, she said, well, the kids are married now and they're living away. When they start having grandkids, guess what? We're moving where the grandkids are. How are we going to do that? We've got a company here. She said, well, we'll figure that out when it happens, but I'm not going to be away from my grandkids. And fortunately, God brought them both back to Dallas, and now one lives 10 minutes north and one lives 10 minutes south. So that, yes. Yeah. You just sit here and when I talk about this kind of stuff, I just realize how blessed that we are to be in this season of life and to be this fortunate to be doing the things that we get to do and have passion for.
So, as a final question, what advice do you have for the listeners that want to live intentionally, that want to live purposefully? What's the one little thing that they could do today, tomorrow, this week that you feel like would really help shift things?
For me, is to figure out what that passion is, define it, and go for it. Don't wait. Just dig in. Because having purpose and having a purpose that you've got a passion for. We can have purpose, but if you don't have a passion for it, then it's just work. When you're passionate about something, when you're passionate about a purpose, there's no work involved. What is it they say? When you love what you do every day, you really don't ever go to work. Well, that's kind of where I'm at right now. What I'm doing takes a lot of time and a lot of work. But when you're passionate about that purpose, it doesn't seem like it at all. So be intentional. I like that word because I think too many often we're not intentional about stuff. We just set it aside. But find a purpose and be passionate. Find a purpose that you are passionate about, whatever that is.
Thank you so much. Okay, so as a final thought, if people want to get connected with you, they want to chat with you more, what's the easiest way for them to get in touch with you?
Text or email.
Okay.
Either one of those. You asked this question. It's really funny. I met with a marketing team yesterday because my son is an influencer on social media. Huge. I don't know if you've ever looked him up, but he's got hundreds of thousands of followers in different areas. Now, I'm not trying to be him, but I met with them as I've got a story to tell and I've got something I want to do. And I've written a daily devotional for, 25 years. And all my friends say I need to publish those. I'm like, I don't want to publish them. So I went to this company and said, okay, I want to do something I've got 35 journals that I've written in for 35 years. And each one of them is full of devotionals that I've written. I want to take that and take it to a bigger audience I don't want to publish a book. I'm not interested in that. But if I could get my message out there, and I don't know anything about I'm a baby boomer. I'm active on Facebook. That's the only place I'm active. And I want to change that. I told this team yesterday, I said, okay, you're going to teach an old dog a new trick. Because I don't know anything about Twitter. I don't know anything about Instagram. I don't know anything about X. I don't know anything about any of that. But this is what I want to do. Now you need to tell me, do I need a video? Do I need to write it? What do and I want it less than 2 minutes every one I do. So that's one thing that I'm trying to shift into, that to take what I've learned, what wisdom I've got, because with age does come wisdom, and put it out there to where more people can get it other than the 600 or 700 people that get my daily devotionals every day.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, we will include your social media handles in the in the show notes so that people.
Yeah, please do. Because I will answer text and if they call me, leave a message. 'Cause people call me and I say, okay, then I need to know who they are at least so I can get back to them. Yeah, but I will get back to them. Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. It was so great having you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope it was worth it. It was fun for me.
It was great. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your wisdom with us. I can't wait to share this episode with the world. Thanks, Wayne.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them, because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time, remember, The life you want doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.